All right, so let's talk about playing the blues on guitar. And the blues is really a feeling that you're trying to convey with your instrument. And there's a lot of techniques that you can get into with the blues, different kinds of chord changes, different kinds of lead parts and soloing parts that make up sort of the overall blues sound. But really, right at its core, the blues is very simple. It's not about chords or scales or chord progressions or anything like that. It's about conveying, first and foremost, a very specific feeling to the listener through your instrument. It's very easy to establish that feeling as a starting point when you're just learning or you're just starting out on the guitar. And you don't actually even have to know any chords to do this. So let's take a look. So when we talk about the feeling of the blues, we talk about how does the blues feel when it's being played. And we're going to say we're playing the blues in the key of E. So that might be something you've heard before, the key of a song. And if you ever hear someone playing the blues, they're going to be in a specific key. So a lot of times it's E or A or D. It can be any key, really. But for this example, we're going to be playing the blues in the key of E. And one really easy way to establish a bluesy feel on your guitar is simply by taking your index finger and placing it on the second fret of the A string. And we can just play that on its own on a downstroke. Now there's one thing we can add here that's going to make this note in the key of E, and that is the E note. So we're going to play this E note and this second fret A note together. So you can see what I did there. I took my pick and I played it on a downstroke, so that's in a downward direction. And I'm playing each string simultaneously. So I'm playing the E string and the A string second fret simultaneously. And essentially what that is it's a two-note chord. It's a couple of notes out of the E chord. Now we don't need to actually know the E chord to do this. So that's your first kind of sound that you're going to create when you're playing the blues. Now the next thing you want to do is you want to take your ring finger, right? Just like we did on the second fret A string here, we're going to take our ring finger and we're going to place it on the fourth fret A string. Now just like we did before, we can also play this E string, right, this E note over top of this. Right, so just like we did the first time, you're playing the E string and the A string simultaneously on a downstroke. Okay, so what have we learned so far? We've learned how to play the second fret A string, and then the fourth fret A string, with that E note ringing over it. And that E note ringing out over those two notes are going to establish that this is in the key of E, because you have that E kind of ringing out the entire time. And now we need to apply these two notes in time. So as a listener of music, you probably know that music is played in time or to a tempo. So if you're tapping your foot at a consistent tempo, you kind of want to play these notes with a similar kind of a feel to it. So what we'll do here is we'll just go back and forth between these two notes that we just learned how to play, and we'll try to evenly space them in time. And I'm just going to pick a very slow tempo. This is actually 60 beats per minute. And this is a really good way to establish kind of a starting point for blues guitar. So we're just going to go back and forth. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to space out the notes evenly. So you're spacing out those notes so that they sound like they're ringing out with consistent space between them, consistent timing and tempo between them. And one way you can practice this is by putting on a metronome. So we're going to put a metronome on at a very slow tempo, and it's just going to establish a downbeat for us to kind of practice spacing out those two chord positions that we just learned. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that's a really good way to kind of practice your timing and to sort of practice these two chord forms that we're talking about. But are we really playing the blues at this point? And the answer is no, not really. And it's because what we've learned so far is just the static notes and the static timing required to play the blues. So to actually play the blues, we have to add in a little bit of feel. And when I talk about feel, I really mean playing in a way that is imperfect, playing in a way that reflects you the artist, you the guitarist, and what it is that is unique about you that you bring to your playing. And I'm going to give you a couple of ideas now on how to play kind of with a bluesy feel. So one technique that is very common in blues guitar is muting. So when we talk about muting, muting is really where you're taking your right wrist, or the wrist of your picking hand, and you're sort of placing it on the strings just very slightly, enough to affect the vibration of the string itself. So if we play that first chord form that we learned, that 2nd fret A and that open E, well, you can hear how that rings out. Now, if I'm playing and I want to establish a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of percussiveness, what I can do is I can stop the vibration of the string by placing sort of the inside of my wrist right on the bridge of the guitar just very slightly in order to control the vibration of that string. And you can also use it to sort of control the tone that your guitar is making. So if I play it without muting, you get a very loud and a kind of a bright tone. And if I play it with muting, you get kind of a muted and a less bright tone and a less loud tone, which you can use in your playing to establish very specific type of feel. So if we think about the blues chord forms that we just learned, and we apply muting to it, you could create something that sounds like this. And what we're doing there is we're muting, but we're also adding in a downstroke in between the quarter notes. So before we just played downstrokes just on the quarter notes. And when we add a little bit of muting, so there's your quarter note, and then we're going to play a downstroke in between the quarter note, and then another downstroke on that downbeat quarter note again. Another important thing to talk about here when you're trying to establish a bluesy sound is you want to vary the intensity of your pick strike. So you want to play with what's called dynamics. And dynamics are how loud and how soft your delivery is when you're playing an instrument or singing or really doing anything musical. Dynamics refer specifically to the volume of the notes that you're playing. And that's important because it's fundamental to how the music feels and the feel of a particular song. You can convey a lot by simply varying how hard you're playing your guitar. So in this example, we could play the first downstroke rather loud, and then those in between ones, we can just play them a little bit softer. So now we've established a very, very simple approach for you to start playing the blues. And now that you have a basic foundation, a starting point for playing the blues, you can start learning about all the different techniques that are involved in playing some of the more advanced forms of blues as well. So thanks for stopping by today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this short lesson video today. There's a lot more where that came from on my website, brandonjohnsonguitar.com. Go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more videos like this. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you next time.